Hello and welcome to week 7. Oh my gosh, it just keeps going. We're almost there. We have this week, a 4-day week, and then we have next week, which is a 4-day week for us because we're done next Thursday. Yay for us. If you haven't got the email, keep an eye out for it. If you're not getting any emails, contact the school. We're doing locker cleanouts. We're getting all your stuff back to you. We're collecting books. We've got this whole system set up. Ms. Spires sent something out. If you have not received it, please make a concerted effort to contact the school to find out when and where and how all this is taking place, because it's all done with the whole social distancing thing. Very, very neat and clean and orderly and organized. So please keep an eye out for that. Offhand, I don't remember which day is for 7th graders. I think it's Monday, but I'm not 100%. So keep your eyes out for that. I want to thank you guys all for all your hard work in getting through this crazy quarter, getting through this year. I have no idea what next week is going to hold for us. Honestly, last week of school is all minimum days. You usually watch movies and sign yearbooks. So I don't know what we're going to be doing next week. Maybe I'll give you coloring pages and have you color me a picture. Write me a story. I don't know. I'll come up with something. I'll check with Miss Spires to make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to as a proper teacher. But it won't be anything too strenuous. I'm going to wrap up really with our last true math lesson here. Is going to be about solving inequalities. Most of you did really well with the solving of equations. We did that a couple weeks ago. You were running through that without a problem. You did a great job of it. Solving inequalities is pretty much the exact same thing. We're going to add one tiny rule to the game. Other than that, it's going to be identical. All right. So in fact, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to write up here equations. Remember, that has an equal sign. That's why it's called an equation, because there's equal. And over here, I'm going to write inequalities. Okay, and that is these wonderful little things. We can also add in those two. All right, so these are the two types of problems that we're working with. Now, a couple weeks ago when you did equations, you followed some basic steps. We're just going to worry about two-step inequalities today. So I'll refer back to two-step equations. The first thing you did is you added the inverse of the constant. And we're not doing two-sided with this, so we're always going to add the inverse of the constant. When you were done with that, I tried to make it so everything was dividing by the coefficient. I think most of the stuff I'm going to deal with today is going to do the same thing, so I'm going to write that divide by the coefficient. And that was it. That got you to your final answer. So for instance, if I did 4x plus 3 equals 19. Well, we would go through those steps. First step says add the inverse of the constant. Now we're talking about the constant that's on the wrong side. That's this guy right here. So we're going to add the inverse, which is a -3 to both sides. And that is going to leave me these two zero out. You know this, 4x. My equal sign's still on the line. And this gives me 16. And then, in fact, I'm going to label this really quick here. Add inverse. Okay. Now we divide by the coefficient so that it makes 1. And we divide by the coefficient. So I'm going to, again, label it divide coefficient. And x equals 4. Now recall that that means that the only number in the entire universe that will work here is the number 4. No other number will make this statement true. If you put a 3 in there, it's not going to equal 19. If you put a -4 in there, it's not going to equal 19. 4 is the one and only one possible answer that will get you to this point. Okay, that will solve that equation. Equations have equal signs. There is one answer. That's it. Now, we are going to change just one tiny little thing. In fact, you'll notice as I write this, that the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add inverse of the constant. All right, look familiar? Look, same thing here, same thing there. It's the exact same thing, okay? Because we don't change anything. It's done the same way. Step number 2, we still go through the process the same way. In this case, we're going to divide by the coefficient. Look at that. Divide by coefficient, divide by coefficient. Exact same thing. So here, right here, is where we have a new rule. It's not a step, it's a rule. Okay? If the coefficient is negative, you must flip the inequality symbol. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you a problem. I'm going to show it to you once where it has a positive coefficient so you can see what happens with that symbol. And we're going to see it once with a negative coefficient. So I'm going to draw this box here, separate those out. So now I'm going to have a positive coefficient and a negative coefficient. I'm going off the page. There we go. So I'm going to draw my lines here now. All right. So if I'm doing a problem, and I'm going to use the exact same problem I did over here. 4x plus 3, but I'm going to make it an inequality. So 4x plus 3 is less than or equal to 19. Okay. We're going to go through the steps here. Add the inverse. You'll notice that it looks exactly like we did over here. I wrote the wrong symbol. Look at that. If I knew how to edit, I would change this, but I don't, so this is my form of editing. See how high-tech I am? I can scribble out a plus sign. I know you're amazed. Deal with it. All right, so these two make 0 just like we did in the equation. So I'm left with 4x. This symbol comes straight down. Notice it's pointed the same way. And these two, once again, give me 16. We divide by the coefficient. Notice the coefficient is a positive 4. That means I'm dividing by a positive 4. I'm going to divide by a positive 4. If it is a positive number, the symbol stays the same. Remember the rule says if it is negative, get my highlighter out here, highlight, 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 highlight. If it's negative, we flip it over. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, so I just have my x. 16 divided by 4 is 4. But now look at the difference between an equation and an inequality. 4 is the only possible answer. That's it, nothing else. But x can be 4, because it's equal to 4. It can be 3. It can be 2. It can be 1. It can be 0. It can go all the way to negative infinity. There's an infinite number of answers now. And any of these, well, let's just use 0. 4 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 3 is 3. 3 is less than 19. Yes, it worked. Okay, if I put a negative number in here, negative 7, that would give me a negative 28. Plus 3 will give me a negative 25, and that also is less than 19. There's an infinite number. So we then graph, because we can't write them all. Come on, that's not even possible. So we get a 4, and 3, and 2, and 1. And it's got a line. So we learned last week that that means it is a closed dot because 4 works. And it's all of these numbers to the left going to infinity. There we go. That's how you graph and show the final answer for an inequality equation or inequality problem. You can write it like this. That is a algebraic representation of the answer. This is how you graph it to show that it is 4 and everything less than 4. Okay, now again, I'm going to go back and review one last thing here, or one last time here. Positive coefficient, the symbol never changed. Less than equal to, less than equal to, less than equal to. It never changed. Now, let's do the flip side of that. Let's come over here and let's do negative 2x plus 4 is greater than, I don't know, 16? Yeah, 16, that sounds good. So again, we go through the same steps. The first step, no difference whatsoever. We don't have to worry about anything with the first step. We can draw our line. We add the inverse, so it's a negative 4. Negative 4, get that constant out of there. This leaves a negative 2x because these make 0. I haven't done anything with my coefficients, so I'm not going to touch that yet. Here, they're different signs, so I subtract 16, take away 4 is 12. Now look what happens. If I am dividing by a negative 2, well, over here, that's great. A negative divided by a negative is positive. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So that's what leaves me this makes that big 1, leaving me just x. I do the same thing on this side. Positive divided by a negative is negative. 12 divided by 2 is 6. But the rule, now I'm going to draw a little arrow to remind myself right here. When you divide or multiply, if you ever get a problem, you have to multiply by a negative number. In this case, this coefficient is negative 2. We're going to take this symbol and we're going to flip it over. See how that changed? It went from a greater than, still a greater than, but when I divided, it had to flip over to become a less than symbol. That means just like over here, x has an infinite number of possibilities. It can be negative 6. It can be negative 7, negative 8, all the way to negative infinity. That's an infinity symbol, trust me. All right, so on a graph, we have negative 6, negative 7, negative 8, and negative 9. This one, oh wait, no, x can't be negative 6 because there's no equal sign. What am I doing? It can be real close to negative 6, but it cannot be negative 6. Therefore, it gets an open circle. It can be negative 6.1, negative 6.2, negative 6.5, 7, 7.5, 8, 8.9, all the way to infinity, negative infinity. Any of these work. And I can check any of these answers and make sure that I flipped it, make sure that I've done it correctly. Some of you, next year, you're going to have to start showing a lot more work. The last couple weeks, I know it's been crazy homeschool stuff, but let me tell you, as a math teacher, it's really grated on me not being able to see any of your work. You need to be able to show the work, and you need to be able to check your answers. So, for instance, let's put 8 in here, -8. Negative times negative is positive. 2 times 8 is 16. 16 plus 4 is 20, and 20 is greater than 16. So good, it worked. Okay, and you could choose any of these and it'll work the same way. All right, -10, -4 billion, whatever, it's still going to come out true. So that's all there is for graph or for solving inequalities. The first step is the same. The second step is the same. The only difference is when you're doing the second step, you got to look, am I multiplying or dividing by a negative? If that coefficient is negative, if you have to divide, where am I here? Divide by a negative, you have to flip the symbol. That's the only time. I don't care if this is positive or negative. I don't care if this is positive or negative. I don't care about anything else. All I care about is that right there. What is being touching the variable? Is it negative? If so, you know at some point you're going to flip that symbol. It's going to happen. Okay? So that's what your assignment is today. Give it a try. Let me know how it goes. Let me know if you have any problems. Let me know if you have any questions for end of the year stuff, next year stuff. I talked to Mr. Fithian, and I put everybody's name in for algebra next year. A couple of you struggled a little bit this year. I'm giving you that chance. It's easier to go back down if you find it's too hard than you can't move up. So I want everybody to have that opportunity. So please take advantage of it. Do the best you can. I will talk to you one last time next week, and maybe I'll see you at locker clean out. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Bye.